So this is the original marketplace ad for the 240. It was listed in Keene, New Hampshire for 500 bucks. I went out there with my dad, the old Suburban in the trailer, gave the guy $150 and dragged it home. The car is a 93 240 with the AW70. It was in really good shape, aside from the fact that I hadn't run since the year 2000 when the owner passed away, at which point it sat. So I dragged it home while I was, I think, in my sophomore year of college. It sat until I graduated, at which point I decided to embark on the swap project. And so I pulled the B230F out of it. It's got a squirter motor, so that's on the back burner for a potential future project. But the engine had sat forever. Virtually every ancillary system around it was no good. I did manage to bark the engine off on starter fluid, but it wasn't something that I felt the need to revitalize, and I didn't want an automatic anyway, so it got yanked. I sourced a marketplace 6 liter that was advertised as good for I think $600. I managed to stumble across an AR5 as well from Colorado, so I had a transmission for it, and I figured it'd be a great way to have some fun in the Volvo. Unfortunately, that 6 liter did have catastrophic oil pressure issues from the get-go, which I should have seen coming. I used the STS engine mounts and transmission mount for this project. Um, I had to also swap in a spline shaft in place of the collapsible steering rack from the original Volvo because it was interfering with the exhaust manifold. So that was one of the more annoying things to honestly do with this swap. Otherwise, it really was not a mechanically difficult job. Um, this is me wasting my time trying to breathe life back into that crappy old 6 liter. I did have to use a Holley 302-2 oil pan. I think I cheaped out and bought like a Chinese replica, and I regret this because I'm pretty sure that it also had some issues with the oil pickup. I don't think that the engine was gonna last very long with the oil pressure that I had, but I don't think that the oil pickup from that Chinese replica did me any favors. Um, yeah, and that was me swapping the steering shaft. So the AR5, awesome little transmission, feels really good based on the Toyota like R150, I believe, box. Um, it's the same thing actually, I think, in my Tundra, but the internal slave was interesting. I'd never dealt with one of those before. I used the Fabbot AR5 to 4L60E bell housing adapter, and I used their remote bleeder as well. That's an awesome product. Made bleeding the clutch super easy. Um, the Fabbot stuff in general was great. I did use a remote shifter for the AR5, and that sucked. I would not do that again. It does not feel good. The detents don't feel good. Nothing. The original transmission felt really good, and after I put that extension housing on it, it felt like crap. So I would steer clear if you're doing this in the future. But yeah, this is just me installing that remote slave cylinder. I used a Luke F-body Camaro clutch and flywheel off of Rock Auto. They both held up fine. I mean, the 6 liter was making that much power, and honestly, it did not last long enough to really even break the clutch in. So, what am I saying? But um, yeah, you can see a couple of the other cars in the background there. I've got my 911, my 635, one of the 635s. But and this is putting the engine in. I believe it's just mock up. I think it'll come back out one more time after this, maybe not. But the most of the belt drive I ended up replacing. I also ended up using an LS3 style intake manifold. This is because I was planning on swapping rack port heads onto the 6 liter eventually. Um, Little did I know I'd end up swapping a whole aluminum 6.2 into it down the road. But yeah, I literally just put the stock truck 6 liter injectors and a set of the like ICT billet adapter plates on the LQ4 to get the look, I guess, that I wanted with the LS3 intake manifold. And here I am slapping the Holley harness into it. That was super easy. I did have my initial Terminator X computer itself failed like immediately, but this was like no wiring issues, no nothing. I probed everything, and I did not change a single thing after swapping in the new one, and it's worked perfectly ever since. But yeah, I think if I did this again, I would also probably use the Haltech Rebel LS, or honestly even just a stock PCM. I don't know. I don't know if the Terminator was worth it. For the future, like 6.2 stuff, I think it'll be great, but for the 6-liter, it was kind of overkill. I used some ICT billet adapters. The Volvo power steering lines actually like use the same fitting as the LS, so I was able to bend the high pressure line and just use that. And then for the return, I just used like some AN hose. I just made a little hose and it held up great. The Holley wiring is in parallel with some of the Volvo stuff, so I used I still have the original Volvo oil pressure and water temp gauges working on the dash, which is super cool. I really like. My goal was to have the car that internally looking like nothing much had changed. The other thing that I had to do was I had to swap a manual pedal cluster. Obviously, the car being an automatic didn't have one. I used the STS hydraulic clutch pedal, and then I used the generic Willwood Motorsport master cylinder. I ended up having to cut down the drive shaft, I think like 6 or 8 inches, I'm not sure. And I welded a 1350 U-joint adapter onto it, and onto that, I was able to, obviously on the opposite, on the 90-degree opposing side of that, I connected a 4L60/AR5 slip yoke. So it's completely like the original drive shaft from the center bearing back, and it's just got like the original drive shaft with this exact 1350 welded onto it, and then the slip yoke and all of that, and obviously some new Dana Spicer U-joints. If I did this again, I would use 1330 U-joints instead of the 1350s. The 1350 is just huge and total overkill. But that being said, they did work great. And this is me and Yasha getting the car plumbed up to just start with a tank out of it before we got everything installed and realized something was catastrophically wrong. So we'll start it up here in a second.
So we've regrouped from last time. We have fuel system hooked up. We have a new battery now with a 1-year warranty, and we've got it hooked up for the Tundra. And I've connected the grounds on the back of the head for the Holley, which I kind of forgot. So now we're gonna see.
I'll hold it.
You're gonna hold it? Yeah. We might need hands for the throttle though.
Okay, I have hands.
You have hands?
Look, you see, look, it's Vic. You ever see Vic before?
All right, let's see what the fuck happens.
Okay. How's it look, Vic? No fuel leaks yet. Okay. Son of a bitch! She fucking got it.
Turbo LS? Oh, not Turbo LS. Not yet. But LS Volvo runs, dude.
It's mint.
All right, let's start it again. Let's see if we can.
Yeah. I'll hit the throttle.
Yeah, hold the throttle.
Yeah. I'll hit the throttle.
So yeah, and after I got the car running, I took that fuel system back apart. I ended up getting some like Tefzel wiring to run the AEM in the tank because I was worried about just the shielding on the wiring failing. So I got some Tefzel wiring for that, and I used like a kind of a weird bulkhead crimp style connector. You can see it kind of in the bottom left side there. And then I just ran, you know, rubber hose up to the front of the engine. I do think I'm going to switch over to like an aluminum hose, at least for the majority of the underbody of the car, so that I can just have the rubbers on either side and make it a little easier, more serviceable, and have less concern for, like, I don't know, heat and whatnot. This is just more wiring, so I ended up kind of getting rid of that weird like Volvo bus box that's connected to the battery and fusing all of the Volvo stuff like in line. And then you'll see here kind of as we get to the next clip, but I ended up like using some a bit of that. You can see the battery positive box there, so that was like a GM box, and that's where I like spliced into the Volvo harness. This is just slapping the front end back on the car. And this I kind of regret, but I used a DO88 Volvo 240 aluminum radiator, and I think that, according to everything I've read, people use the C4 radiators and have very good luck with those. And they're really cheap on eBay, and honestly, I think that would have probably been a worthwhile endeavor. But I did like that I was able to use the Volvo expansion tank. For the brakes, everything on the car was just rusty. So I got new calipers, rotors, everything off of eBay or Rock Auto or something. But the calipers all come with like these dual outlets, and this car being an ABS car or a former ABS car, which I did get rid of ABS, but I had to like make like a T to join both sides of the caliper. And then I managed to source a set of Bertone 15-inch mesh wheels, which I was really stoked about. This is the first kind of run of the car as I'm pulling it onto the trailer here. So yeah, unfortunately I did knock the camera over as I was pulling it up, but this is at my new house here. So I brought it home because I needed to weld to make the exhaust, and I don't have power at the hangar to do that. So I basically just welded together a whole bunch of eBay mild steel. It's like 2¼ inch from the collectors down to the splitter there, and then, or that Y, I guess, and then from the Y back, it's full 3 inch. Um, you know, I'm not a welder, so it's okay. It's not perfect. I probably will end up redoing it. I'd love to um, get a TIG machine and get, good with that. But for the interim, it came out looking pretty good. It tucked up nicely. I used like a Dyno Max muffler or something, a little like, honestly, the car's surprisingly quiet, all things considered. It's for that one muffler, it's really, really pretty silent. And it tucked up pretty nicely, and it did come out
It's
looking
recording.
really,
So let's see
really
these
good.
gaskets. No, I didn't. That's the only one I found in the store. That's the only one that had stock numbers and shit. So you put without gaskets? Yeah. It seemed tight, so we're gonna see how it sounds. It should be recording, right? Mm-hmm. fucked around with the wiring for the fan. So the fan kick relay, which is over here. It didn't kick on before, so I'm wondering if that was it. That also definitely didn't help, but it's idling with the rad cap off.
So this is the photo of the first fill up. And this is the photo of when I blew it up, like 5 miles up the street. The tow guy was, fine. He showed up, and Yash and I were stranded on the side of the road for a little while, but it was good fun. The car, actually, on this very same weekend, I thrashed to finish the car to drive it up to Limestone, Maine for autocross. But unfortunately, Yash went up the day before with the Outback you see here. He blew up the Outback that night. So, and I blew up the Volvo the very next day on its test drive. So yeah, that's the Volvo LS swap saga so far. I have an aluminum 6.2 now that I'm building for it, and it will be back and more dangerous than ever for this summer.